Heyo, it's XRYXIX. Like and subscribe if it suits you.
I wanted to talk about Emily Artful's Brandon making a video on the whole thing and Emily Artful's response to that just the other day. The audio is gonna sound a bit choppy because I recorded audio on what I thought about Brandon originally around the time that happened, and then I just wanted to wait for Emily's response to the whole thing, just to have the conclusion before I really started and finished this, I have the playlist of everything I found on the subject that's comprehensive and solid to me, and the songs will be acknowledged below, of course. If you want to watch my previous video on this to catch you up on the whole thing, go for it. This is a continuation of that, basically. So Brandon decided to come out with a video
In response to Emily Artful and the whole thing, but mainly talking about Emily Artful directly, because he doesn't really say anything about what Creepshow did, or Anthony, or him really did. And it's interesting, I don't really know what he was trying to go for. I don't know if he knew what he was trying to go for, but he starts out in a dim lit room, right? Taking off some shades like Morpheus from the Matrix, right? And wearing a leather jacket and all black, and looking like some kind of Terminator remake, right? And then he goes on to say that, oh, me? That couldn't have been me, because I was a 90-pound, untreated, autistic man who really liked Halo, right? And it just doesn't make sense to me. That isn't actually saying that you wouldn't do those things, that isn't actually explaining why you wouldn't do those things. It just seems like pointing at your weight and size and what you have and what you like, instead of actually being like, oh, I would never because this and this happened instead. And he kind of does in a way, but at the same time, he just talks about it. He doesn't put any proof, he doesn't put anything about his actual behavior, he doesn't put anything that would explain with factual proof. You know what I mean? I do recognize that it's whoever said whatever said kind of thing. Because, the way things are being said are pretty different scenarios, but around the same lead up, or something like that, I suppose. But let's be real on how Shannon and Anthony and Brandon are acting. It's really murky, and it doesn't make sense, and the dots aren't connecting on their end, but it is for Emily's. But with everything going on, and with how Shannon had hers out, he's having his out the next day, and his has nothing on anything other than just his inference of things. He did say that he was only gonna speak about things that he was there and knew about. So there is that. I don't know what all happened. None of us do except for the people there. Okay. It's just, he seems to have this opinion that it was they all cared about her at points, but he said he was frustrated with everything because he was homeless, and homelessness isn't a joke, but it's also the whole thing about how Anthony and Shannon, they purposefully became homeless. They decided to live in a car instead of a house. I get it, but there is that kind of homeless, and then another kind of homeless where you literally have nothing to call a home. And that's the whole thing too.
I don't know about Brandon. I don't know what his whole thing is.
But he
said that during the whole thing, when they were breaking up, or Anthony was trying to break up with Emily like 3 times already, and Anthony wanted him to break up with Emily, and then he's on the phone to break up with Emily, and it became a whole thing, apparently. Emily in the latest video said that it was actually the first time she heard of him wanting to break up, and she was devastated, and Brandon decided to be really mean from the start, which is trying to talk to Anthony and then it's over and stuff like that. So it's very, you know, someone who read to like how Emily said is probably not gonna tell you all the, you know, grit of it, and it just kind of sounds like Brandon could have, or was misled. I mean, just the fact that he's defending these people who've thrown him under the bus time and time again is sad, and as someone who is autistic as well, I understand that it's like wanting to be friends with people, you know, you want to be friends with them, you care about them, you know, and sometimes you don't always get social cues, sometimes things don't always work out right, but, you know, that's never an excuse for any actions that you do. Everyone can be held accountable for their actions. I'm just saying that it seems like there's something more that Shannon and Anthony are not telling people throughout all of this, and how they've been acting has been really murky, yeah? He said that when they parted, he saw them all as friends end of the day, and said that he was shocked to see what Emily put out these last 6 months. But again, this is what he's saying. I'm not acting like I was there, nothing, but I'm going off of what's being said about the situation on his side. And as we go to the video, it's just kind of weird because he goes on and talks about how Emily has had things of mental illness and also being vicious, and it was kind of like really irrelevant because it was about her like pulling around her like her own teeth, like her own kid teeth, and like paying herself, and like this whole thing that just seemed like he was really trying to make Emily out to be weird and off-putting or something, without actually proving the direct fact of her being how he or creep or Anthony said she was in the situation being talked about. It seemed really irrelevant to me, honestly. And he says that he didn't judge her for her mental illness or anything, but how he comes off is a bit grandstanding, because he's like, I have no idea why you lie, I have no idea why you do this, after he said that she speaks in half-truths, and this was the video that came out just after Creepshows, with everything that she put out that did not prove that she wasn't a stalker, because it was a lot of information that she should have never had. She or Anthony, whoever is stalking somebody, should have never had. It's weird facts of a matter of someone being so young, right? And then all of the receipts that they use on Emily is like years old now. So it's kind of like, with how Shannon has acted and been called on her ish, you know, and Ben recently, right? And then pointing at a fucking, a person who was 15 at the time for dealing with issues they never should have had to deal with and not knowing how to be. And then with how Shannon made her own videos defending kids, being like, you know, kids are kids, you know, you don't know everything, and until you're like 25, you really don't know anything. Or what you do, you can be held accountable, but you don't know everything, and no one does. You're just not the most mentally mature out there if you're like a new adult, like, you know, or someone who's younger than that, or whatever, you know? So yeah, how Creepshow's been acting has proved that Creepshow's more stalker than anyone even thought. And this guy's defending that person. So, with how Creepshow is known to be vicious and has shown how she is willing to spread misinformation for whatever suits her agenda when she wants, and you don't really see a lot of that from Emily, and this is the year spent. It just really makes you think on their characters as people already from the start, doesn't it? However, I want to say that what people do publicly doesn't always reflect to what they do privately, but what people are willing to do publicly can say a lot about how they are privately. A lot of the time, and sometimes these things can be different or the same, or a bit different and a bit the same. However, you know, I'm just trying to look at this from just all the stuff in an objective manner. It's just that what people do, however they do, reflects on something. And, you know, what they do in public reflects on how they could be. It's a lot, like, people are put in situations they shouldn't be in, suffering because of the society values money over sentience and being and the environment and stuff, and then you just get a lot of mess
with folks that are mean because they can be in a world like this,
and that really affects people in
a multitude of ways.
And you know, they can do things that would harm others by proxy or by relation or by learned behavior. And you know, it's not to excuse, because you know,
what someone does is ultimately on them.
Everyone should be held accountable for their actions. Like, I don't find anything wrong with wanting that in a genuine way. To continue, it's honestly something to note for me how Brandon talks about these things, about how Emily's behavior has been. While he said he was frustrated with all of them, the video was more mainly about Emily's behavior. He didn't say anything about Anthony or Creep, or you could call her Shannon, however. And it's like, it's just weird. And then how he doesn't really say his behavior throughout the whole thing, like he's talking about the mannerisms Emily had and stuff. It's just not explaining the scenario in full for the objective party to really be like, oh, I have all the information now, okay. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like pointing the finger to someone who actually has put up actual facts of the actual things with what they said and how potentially Brandon, Anthony, and Shannon all were talking together, because he uses some of the same points that Shannon uses. He posted this right after Creeps. It's kind of like, I wonder if, I don't know, there could be a lot of scenarios as to what happened, as to why he did, or he could have just posted it and then didn't expect Creepshow to say anything, but how he also put it as in, Emily's the one lying, Emily's the one doing this, when it's like, you know, it's kind of like someone's not telling the whole truth in the entire situation, and there's this person who threw the finger. But I mean, could he have seen it? Could he have not? He doesn't really mention the video. I mean, of course he ought it now, but he doesn't really mention like Shannon's video at all. He doesn't really mention like how people were or whatever. It's just something else of him to talk about being truthful when...
And all of this, when the person he's defending, the main one that everyone knows about, has been acting the type of way for a while and has ignored the actual truth, or at least
made a good response to what was being said
for a while across various instances of drama. And it's just really fucked up, you know? And it's also interesting how Anthony, I haven't heard anything about him responding, anything about him saying anything about him posting anything. It just kind of seems, it really seems like he's hiding behind them to get all the heat for him when he's, you know, the one who's known as someone who assaulted somebody and treated people wrong in a really big way. And it's like things are alleged, because, you know, you gotta say that if it's not known in the court of law or whatever. But he could go to jail for those things. Him and Shannon and whoever else involved could go to jail for acting this way and harassing and stalking someone to the point where they even know the color of her wall in a dad's house. Like, literally, what the heck? I don't understand. And it's just, it doesn't make sense. And I want people to use their critical thinking skills with everything. This and everything that they ever come across, with information they ever come across. It's better to wait and think about what you're gonna say before you say something and potentially spread misinformation, you know? So seriously, be mindful about all of this, because, you know, we don't know, a lot of us do not know them. If you don't know people, it's just, parasocial relationships aren't really relationships at all, you know? And it's really annoying. I forgot to mention,
Brandon called this
cash grab of Emily posting videos on her perspective of the whole thing, you know? And I'm like, with everything that sounds with how it is, you know, if you want to get money to do what you want to do to help yourself out with all the mental shit you've been going through, go for it. I don't get the issue, especially when Creepshows is monopolized and he's ignoring that to call Emily's a cash grab, on top of him calling it an Amber Heard cancel culture situation. And I'm just gonna say, I am so sick and tired of people using being a decent person and people who are popular being held accountable for their actions to be a debate. Like, of course, be a decent person. Of course, everyone should be held accountable for their actions. And it's not even the same scenario, it's not the same situation. And even then, Johnny himself is known for being extremely rude, abusive, and consistently drunk on to Amber and to his co-workers on various sets. He even threatened to Amber. So, you know, it's really fucked up. He's really been not great, and he's even been best of friends with racist Tim Burton. I'm not going to ignore the things that Amber has done, and I don't. It's also fucked up, but they both did fucked up things to each other, and I just don't like when people ignore the facts of the situation because they like someone more. And for Bryce to compare Emily, Creepshow, and Anthony and him to this Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation just feels really disingenuous, and like he doesn't actually know the full cusp of the situation. And like it seems like he was told the wrong information as well, maybe. But who's to say he's not just saying shit? Like, you know, I don't know him, I don't know any of them. I'm just saying how it sounds as the perspective from someone who's paid attention to this stuff.
And noticing that Shannon said the same thing in her video where she compared this situation to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard as well. So that's why I'm like, it just looks like they collaborated ultimately on having these two videos out to have someone on Shannon and Anthony's side. Like, you get what I'm saying?
I'm really kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt as his perspective, and if he's 100% believing what he's saying. So I'm just saying, you know, don't jump to sides when you need to just understand the information you're being given. Okay? It really bothers me when people just haphazardly compare stuff that doesn't make sense. Because it just spreads more misinformation by default, by proxy. You know what I mean? And it's just fucking annoying. But, yeah, and
With Emily's video, she brought Bob on. It's an hour and 30 minute something video, I think, maybe less, something like that. About it all. So she was done after this, and it was pretty, like, everything was put out as it was. And I'm just really tired of people being mean because they can be, or being mean for any reason, or being awful for jealousies or whatever unjustifiable reasons' sake. It's seriously disgusting. And it is really messed up how they villainize this person that they hurt, and they hurt more people than just that, acted however they did. And with Anthony, he's the one who is the centerfold of all of this, and I am tired of people acting like adult men, they have to be treated like children, like they can't be held accountable for their actions, and that's just not how things should be, in my opinion.
And I just also wanted to talk about something as well, as an inquiry of sorts. I have re-uploads of what Bryce said and what creepshow said. Now, I was wanting to put what Bryce said after this video just so people could see the full thing without me having to fully explain every little detail. And I was maybe thinking about putting creepshow re-upload, but I wasn't sure about making it public because I honestly feel pretty murky about getting views and stuff or something like that, and I don't want to spread more information that it just doesn't need to be known about or being spread through the world or whatever for whatever reason of someone else's sheer maliciousness. And I don't want to give her another platform by using my platform, and I don't want her to play in my playlist of stuff because I personally don't like listening to her myself, you know? So I was thinking, would y'all be comfortable if I just put it in like private, linked it to this video, and then y'all could just check them out if you wanted to? Alright. Hope you have good days and all. Be safe, okay? And seriously, be careful about what you say and what you spread and what you learn. Yeah? Good luck to you, and wishing good always. Bye bye.